Nai Singh of Ban Palan. I have written about Nai Singh of Ban Palan's story so that you readers know about it. It may serve as an example, ubaya, to train your mind to some degree. In 1969, the same year that I spent the Rains Retreat, Vasa, at Ban Palan, Mr. Singh would often come and help out at the temple. One day, he was cleaning up my hut, kuti. There was some free time, so I asked him, "Singh, have you ever been ordained?" Mr. Singh replied, "No, I have never been ordained. I don't want to be ordained." I asked, "Why don't you want to be ordained? When you were younger, did you go to the temple?" He replied, "Yes, I did." I asked, "For what purpose?" He replied, "Just to hang out with friends." I asked, "Have you ever chanted in reverence to the Buddha?" He replied, "No, because I do not know how to read." I asked Mr. Singh, "Have you ever listened to the Dhamma from a teacher, Acariya, before?" He replied, "No, I don't even know what Dhamma is." I asked, "Have you ever done sitting meditation, samadhi?" He said, "No, I have never done that either." I told Mr. Singh, "If you have never meditated, then train your wisdom, panya, instead." He asked, "How do I train my wisdom?" I told Mr. Singh, "Just use your thoughts." He asked, "How do I train my thoughts?" I told Mr. Singh, "Use the normal thoughts that you already have. Before, you used your thoughts in a worldly way, thinking about making a living, thinking about tilling the field, or thinking about making money and acquiring various belongings. Have you ever used your thoughts like this?" He replied, "Yes, I have." Have you ever thought that these belongings are your belongings? He said, "Yes, I have thought that." I told him, "Take those thoughts and retrain them. Always think, all of these belongings that I have, none of them belong to me forever. All of these belongings are merely belongings to temporarily rely on. While I am alive, these belongings are only used to facilitate convenience day to day. Once they are used up, more are acquired and utilized beneficially. Always think, these belongings are the world's belongings. There is no one who owns these belongings forever. The quantity of belongings or money I own is not important. In a few days or years, I will definitely have to die and separate from those belongings. The money I own, the house, and all the fields will fall into the hands of my children and grandchildren. Think about it. Those who have died before me owned even more belongings than I do. When they died, who was able to take their belongings with them? All of these belongings will be left in this world. Even my children and grandchildren will be unable to take these worldly belongings with them. They will merely rely on and survive off of these belongings until the day they die, just like I do. Why is it that I know how to think about wanting belongings? I must also know how to think about not wanting." At that moment, I felt that Mr. Singh was listening to my reasoning with concentration. I told him, "Think about 5 things. 1. Think about acquiring belongings. 2. Think about belongings leaving you. 3. Think about dying and leaving belongings behind. 4. Think about how no belongings can be yours forever. And 5. Think about how you merely rely on belongings temporarily. In a few days, you will separate from them. This body of yours and all of those belongings will decay and decompose into the earth element, the water element, the wind element, and the fire element." I told Mr. Singh that, when thinking, only use your own thoughts. Don't copy anyone else's thoughts. Think according to your own reasons and logic. Use your brain when thinking. In other words, think silently and not aloud so that others will hear. Think in this way continuously for around 7 days. Whatever you come up with, come and tell me about it." Mr. Singh agreed and then took his leave to return home. He went and practiced thinking according to the methods I gave him. Mr. Singh had promised to come and report his progress within 7 days. However, after only 3 days, Mr. Singh came to report his progress. At the kuti, I asked him, "How is it going, Singh? Do you know how to think according to what I taught you about training your own thoughts yet?" Mr. Singh answered with confidence, "I know how to think now. At first, the thoughts were all jumbled up, but after thinking about each thing on its own, I felt that my thoughts were clearer and connected. Once I was able to think about one thing, thinking about the second thing became easier. As I was working, I was still able to think about that topic. The thinking was even better at night. I practically didn't sleep at all. Sometimes I thought while sitting, and sometimes I thought while lying down. The more I thought, the more my mind became disenchanted, and I didn't want any belongings at all. It was just as you said, Acariya. There are no belongings that belong to us. We say they are ours, but that is merely what we think. Those belongings do not say that they are ours in any way. In not too long, we will die and separate from each other. I realize that this body is sustained by the food that we eat. The strength that we possess comes from the food that we eat. If we did not eat food, our bodies would lose strength and die. Thus, food is merely consumed in order to sustain the body. Other belongings are only supplementary." Mr. Singh then asked me, "What else should I think about now?" I told Mr. Singh, "Take the same old things and think about them again. Think over and over again on the same topics. The more frequently you think about them, the more your mind will know the truth and see the truth. Form an understanding that the belongings you own are solely to be relied on temporarily." I knew that Mr. Singh did not know the Dhamma in a theoretical, pariyatti, sense at all. I taught him in a manner that avoided theoretical doctrine so as not to confuse him. I only used examples of the truth. I asked Mr. Singh, "Singh, when you work, before you get the rice or before you get the money, do you suffer mentally and suffer physically?" Mr. Singh answered, "Yes, I suffer." After you acquire them in each instance, use them all up, and then have to find more to consume, do you suffer? Mr. Singh replied, "Yes, I suffer." "See, Singh, we suffer because of making a living. From the past until the present, there has been continuous suffering. While we are still alive, we will carry on procuring and consuming things and suffering throughout, until the day we die. After we die and are reborn, we will procure and consume things in this world once again. We are reborn, chati, because of the attachment to the various belongings we own. After we die, the mind returns to be born among the attachment to these various belongings. From now on, Singh, tell yourself that you will not allow the mind to be attached to any belongings. When you procure them, form an understanding that those belongings are communal and belong to the family. As you continue to procure them, care for and rely on those belongings. Don't allow your mind to cling to any of those belongings. If the mind clings to any belongings, the mind will surely return to be born among those material, wattu, belongings. Train your mind and make your mind disclaim all of the various types of belongings that you possess. All of these things are merely belongings to rely on while I am still alive, that's all. Think in this way often, and train the mind to disclaim belongings often. Upon thinking this way frequently, the mind will gradually release and let go of these belongings. The mind will be light, as if you had removed a heavy load from your shoulders. If you think often, you may become exhausted from your thinking. When you are tired from thinking, use a method of resting the mind. Resting the mind doesn't involve anything special. It is simply ceasing those thoughts and making sure that I will not think about anything at all. Simply be mindful, sati, of breathing in and mindful of breathing out. If the breaths are coarse, be mindful that the breaths are coarse. If the breaths are refined, be mindful that the breaths are refined. When the breaths become refined, do not be afraid that you are going to die. Be mindful and focus on the refined breaths. Focus the mind, citta, on watching until the refined breaths vanish. Then you will experience the amazing taste of the Dhamma. I asked Mr. Singh, "Do you understand what I have explained to you?" Mr. Singh replied, "I understand." I told him to go home and continue to practice. A few days later, Mr. Singh came back to the temple. It happened to be a holy day, Uposatha. I was explaining the Dhamma to many people as usual. Mr. Singh sat and listened as well. After I had explained the Dhamma for around 10 minutes, Mr. Singh got up and left to do walking meditation, Jankama, at the temple's clearing by himself. I knew that Mr. Singh had wisdom to bravely contemplate Dhamma topics. Even after the Dhamma exhortation was over, Mr. Singh still hadn't stopped doing walking meditation. I left him to carry on with it and instructed everyone, "Do not talk to Mr. Singh. Leave him to do walking meditation alone." At around midnight, Mr. Singh stopped and sat down to meditate alone for who knows how long. Everyone had retired to rest. In teaching the Dhamma for Mr. Singh to hear that time, I had avoided using any technical terms. I knew that Mr. Singh didn't possess any theoretical knowledge, so I refrained from using any theoretical knowledge that would confuse him. I didn't speak of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Rather, I spoke of change, of suffering of the body and suffering of the mind, and of things that cease to exist. This was so that Mr. Singh could understand the principles of reality. Understanding these principles of reality is what is called wisdom arising. Once wisdom arises, contemplating on anything will easily result in comprehensive clarity and dissolution of all doubts over that thing. The wisdom that Mr. Singh used was entirely his own. He did not borrow it from manuals in any way. That is why his practice was so straightforward and swift. The following day, Mr. Singh came to my kuti to tell me about the fruits, phala, of practice that he had already obtained. He put into order all of the ways he contemplated material belongings. The more I contemplated, the clearer the knowledge and realization of my understanding became. As for the belongings that I clung to as mine, my mind came to accept that there are no belongings that belong to me whatsoever. One night, my mind was in a state of meditative calm for an indeterminable amount of time. Once my mind emerged from the meditative calm, I contemplated the same topics that I had already contemplated. That time contemplating, my mind knew and saw the truth in a refined manner. At around midnight, it was as if my mind suddenly realized Sotapanna. That entire night, I sat replete with happiness. Once he said this, I tried to test him. During that moment, how did you feel about your body? He instantly responded, "In that moment, if someone were to take my body and cremate it, I would not mourn the loss. If someone were to ask for my heart, I would let them cut it right out of me. Or if someone were to ask for both of my eyes, I would hand them over. There was no grieving over any part of my body at all. I did not grieve or cherish any treasures or belongings. My mind did not cling to any belongings whatsoever. If someone had come to ask for all of my belongings at that time, I would have given them all away." I asked Mr. Singh, "As for the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Arya Sangha, the results of good karma or bad karma, hell and heaven, do you believe that they exist?" Mr. Singh replied with conviction, "I firmly believe that the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Arya Sangha exist. The results of good karma and bad karma exist. Hell and heaven exist. From now on, the 5 precepts, Panchasila, that I follow will never be broken or tarnished in any way." When I asked Mr. Singh about the fruits of his practice, if I had asked about theoretical knowledge, he would have been unable to answer because he had never studied theory. He couldn't even read or write. I could only ask him how he felt in his heart and allow him to speak straight from his heart. However he felt in his heart was precisely how he would answer. There was no need to draw comparisons to theory. As a teacher, I had to know what his words meant and to which Dhamma topics they corresponded. Whatever level of enlightenment his mind, citta, had attained, I would immediately know the stage of enlightenment that he was in. In shedding the 3 defilements, People who have never attained a level of enlightenment will assume that first, Sakkayatthhitti must be shed, Vicikiccha must be shed, and Silappata Paramasa must be shed, and then enlightenment as a Sotapanna can be achieved. This is what people who have not attained enlightenment assume. In actuality, attaining enlightenment and shedding the 3 defilements happens during a fleeting moment of consciousness, citta, within santati, the continuity of the incredibly rapid arising and ceasing of consciousness. The moment that enlightenment occurs is the moment that the defilements are eliminated. Those who attain enlightenment at any level will realize it on their own. It is absolutely unnecessary for anyone to issue a declaration, payakarana. It is like eating. Once you are full, you know that you are full. Why would you ask anyone? Similarly, those who attain a level of enlightenment know it for themselves.